The empress who buried her rivals, alive and became God Emperor. A woman is kneeling in front of the Emperor of China. She is not begging. She is not pleading. She is waiting. The Emperor has just been shown evidence, fabricated as it happens, that this woman strangled her own newborn daughter to frame the Empress and have her removed. The plan worked. The Empress was dethroned. Her hands and feet were cut off. She was stuffed into a wine jar and left to die. And the woman kneeling before the Emperor, the woman who arranged all of this, became the new Empress of China. Her name was Wu Zetian. And she was just getting started. Over the next 5 decades, she would execute rivals, bury enemies alive, promote farmers to generals, build the most effective secret police force in Chinese history, and eventually declare herself not Empress Consort, not Regent, but Emperor. The first and only female emperor in 4,000 years of Chinese history. And the terrifying part, she was probably the best ruler the Tang Dynasty ever had. Before we go any further, drop a comment. Do you think someone can be genuinely great at their job and morally monstrous at the same time? Because Wu Zetian is going to test that question hard. Let's go back to the beginning. Because Wu Zetian did not start at the top. She was born in 624 AD into a moderately wealthy family. Her father had supported the founder of the Tang Dynasty, which meant the family had connections, but not power. Wu was educated, unusually so for a girl of her era, in literature, music, and the Chinese classics. She was sharp, articulate, and by all accounts, very aware of exactly how sharp and articulate she was. At 14, she was selected to enter the imperial harem of Emperor Taizong as a low-ranking concubine. Her title translates roughly as talented person, which sounds impressive until you realize it was the 5th lowest rank out of 9 in the imperial harem hierarchy. She was, essentially, furniture. For 12 years, nothing much happened. Emperor Taizong was a great ruler and a busy man. Wu Zetian caught his attention enough to survive, but not enough to rise. She served him. She watched. She learned. And then, in 649 AD, Emperor Taizong died. Under Tang Dynasty law, when an emperor died, his concubines who had not borne him children faced Buddhist convents. Wu Zetian was 25 years old, childless, and facing a convent. Except, she had spent her 12 years in the harem doing something very specific. She had made herself indispensable to the new crown prince, and Crown Prince Gaozong, it turned out, was deeply in love with her. She spent 12 years as invisible furniture in an emperor's harem, and used every single one of those years to position herself for the moment the emperor died. Comment below. Patient long game or chilling calculation? I think it's both. Gaozong rescued her from the convent, brought her back to court, made her a concubine, then empress, against the fierce opposition of every senior official in the Tang court. Men who wrote memorials calling her dangerous, unnatural, a threat to the dynasty. The officials were right. She was a threat to the dynasty, just not in the way they imagined. As empress, Wu Zetian moved quickly. The previous empress, the one whose hands and feet had been cut off, was gone. Her allies were removed, demoted, or exiled. Wu replaced them with her own people, men who owed their positions entirely to her. She also did something that no one expected. She governed well. She reduced taxes on farmers. She promoted officials based on ability rather than aristocratic birth, a radical concept in Tang Dynasty China. She expanded the imperial examination system so that talented men from ordinary families could enter government service. She patronized Buddhism, built temples, commissioned scholarship. The aristocratic clans hated her. She didn't care. She had the emperor, she had the army, and increasingly, She had the loyalty of the people who actually ran the country day to day. Then Emperor Gaozong began having strokes. From the 660s onward, his health deteriorated steadily. During his incapacitations, Wu Zetian handled state affairs. She sat behind a screen at court audiences. The screen was a formality, a concession to propriety, and made decisions. The screen is such a perfect symbol. Everyone in that court knew perfectly well who was actually governing. The screen just gave them something to pretend behind. Does that dynamic remind you of anything today? Comment. I want examples. Gaozong died in 683. Their son became emperor, Emperor Zhongzong. He lasted 6 weeks before Wu Zetian deposed him and replaced him with a more compliant son. That son was emperor in name. Wu Zetian governed. And then, in 690 AD, she dropped the pretense entirely. She had scholars produce historical precedents for female rule. She had Buddhist monks discover a convenient prophecy. She held an elaborate ceremony. And at 65 years old, Wu Zetian declared herself Huangdi, emperor. Not empress. Emperor. She founded her own dynasty, the Zhou, and ruled in her own name. She was 65 years old when she declared herself emperor. Most people are thinking about retirement. She was thinking about founding a dynasty. What does that tell you about what age actually means when it comes to ambition? For the next 15 years, Wu Zetian ruled China as emperor. And here is the part that drives her critics absolutely mad. She was good at it. China expanded. The bureaucracy was reformed. The examination system was strengthened. Agriculture was improved. The borders were defended. By almost every measurable standard of Tang Dynasty governance, her reign was effective. Yes, she had a secret police force. Yes, she encouraged anonymous denunciations. Yes, the men who crossed her tended to end up dead, exiled, or, in at least one documented case, buried alive. She was not a gentle ruler, but she was a competent one. In 705 AD, Wu Zetian was 80 years old and seriously ill. A group of officials staged a coup, entering her bedchamber with soldiers and demanding she abdicate in favor of her son. She looked at them. She abdicated. There was nothing left to fight for. She was 80. She had ruled for 50 years. She had done what she came to do. She died later that year. She left instructions that her tombstone should be blank. No inscription, no titles, no epitaph. She said that posterity would judge her better than any words she could write herself. She left a blank tombstone and said history would be her epitaph. 800 years later, historians are still arguing about her. Was she right? And is she a hero, a villain, or something that doesn't fit either label? The tombstone is still blank. It stands outside Xi'an today. Tourists visit it every day, most of them not quite sure what to make of the woman it doesn't describe. Every male emperor in Chinese history who used secret police, executed rivals, and consolidated power through fear is described as strong, decisive, ruthless, words that carry a grudging respect. Wu Zetian did the same things, and for 1,000 years, Chinese historians called her a monster, a usurper, an unnatural aberration. The double standard is so obvious, it barely needs pointing out. What's harder to sit with is the genuine moral complexity. She did terrible things. She also governed one of the largest countries on Earth more effectively than almost anyone before or after her. The blank tombstone was the smartest thing she ever did. Because we are still talking about her. Subscribe, and every week we find another story that refuses to fit neatly into good or bad. Next week, she escaped prison in disguise, outlasted the British Empire, and never stopped fighting for her son's throne. Maharani Jind Kaur, the woman Britain was so afraid of, They called her the Messalina of the Punjab.